Good afternoon. This is the afternoon show with your host, georgewbush-whitehouse. Today we'll be discussing the Iraq invasion. More specifically, we'll be discussing the injustices to the Iraq by the USA. To give you a little bit of history about what happened, back in 2001, Iraq was invaded by the USA, but under suspicion that Iraq was creating and maintaining weapons of mass destruction. The Bush administration said they had reports that Iraq were creating and maintaining these weapons of mass destruction, and they highlighted this as their argument to proceed with this. But in reality, the reports did not have enough evidence to show that Iraq were creating weapons of mass destruction. Today, we'll be starting off with interviewing people of Kansas City on the streets, and hopefully just to get a little bit of knowledge of what they know and just to see where people are at in their mindset with this. And then we'll end off with the broadcast from an expertise on the field to georgewbush-whitehouse. He will help us dive deeper onto what happened and the reality of what happened, give some facts, and to end it off what America should do to help solve this issue and just as a repayment to Iraq. Now, onto the streets of Kansas City, Missouri, to georgewbush-whitehouse. Thank you, Sajad. We're on here on the streets of Kansas City, Missouri. We'll be asking random people and interviewing them. Random interviewer. Hello, sir. Can I interview you?
Yes.
So, what do you know about the Iraq invasion?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know anything about it.
What if I told you the reason behind the Iraq invasion was because the U.S. believed those weapons of mass destruction?
I would believe you.
What if I told you that Iraq did not have any weapons of mass destruction and that the U.S. lied in the report and highlighted false accusations about shit that happened 20 years ago?
I would think the U.S. is a very bad country.
Fair. Yeah. Let's find our next interviewer. Hello, sir. May I interview you?
Of course.
What do you know about Iraq?
Not too much.
What do you think about the Iraqi people when you hear about them?
Personally, I think they're fine people, but I know a lot of people that discriminate them.
Why do you think discrimination is happening towards Arab and Muslims?
I think they blame it on 9/11.
9/11?
Yeah.
You also think it could be the reason behind the Iraq invasion?
Could it be the reason of the Iraq invasion?
Yeah.
Did that not happen like after 9/11?
No.
It happens before 9/11?
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying it's because of that? Or you're asking me like...
I'm asking you, do you think that's the reason behind it?
Why would that be the reason?
Because the reason why the U.S. went into Iraq to invade it was because of the weapons of mass destruction. That was the reason behind it.
Okay, but you're asking me why I think that people discriminate them.
Yes.
I think it's like because 9/11, suicide bombers.
What if I told you that 9/11 didn't happen, but that the U.S. killed 500,000 Iraqis because of this? Innocent civilians. And also I'll tell you that the people who did 9/11 were not from Iraq.
They weren't from Iraq?
They were not from Iraq.
Yeah, that's another thing. I feel like they just like put like every Muslim in the same box.
Yes, that was a good interview. Thank you for your interview.
Go.
Our last interview gave us a lot of information, very well discussed discussion. Let's find another one. Hello, sir.
Hello, how you doing?
May I trouble you for an interview?
No, yeah, we're rocking.
What do you know about Arabs?
Not much. I got a couple friends, but that's about it.
No. What if I told you that the reason why that the U.S. invaded Iraq was because of weapons of mass destruction, and when they went, they found none?
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Do you think the invasion was still like an acceptable reason to go, even though they said that they found weapons of mass destruction, but in reality there was no reports of any?
Well, after hearing that, no, not really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sajad. That was very interesting interviews and very eye-opening. Let's go ahead and move on to the podcast with the expert, georgewbush-whitehouse. Thank you, georgewbush-whitehouse. I am now here with Sajad, the expertise on the situation. Let's go ahead and dive in. So today's topic, as you guys already know, is the Iraq invasion. And let's go ahead and start off with the first question. So my first question to you is, can you give us a little bit of history and dive a little bit deeper onto what happened necessarily? Thanks, Sajad. Hi, nice to meet you all. My name is georgewbush-whitehouse. Let's get started. So to answer your question, to dive deeper into a little bit of the history of what happened. So to begin, Iraq was invaded by the USA back in 2001 because the USA believed that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. Later to be found out that it was not true. Now, to tell you what happened and why this happened was because the Bush administration was pushing to invade Iraq, and so they highlighted certain things in the report given to them, such as weapons of mass destruction, so they can go and invade. Later found out that after the invasion, Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction, and it was all a lie. The Bush administration used fear So the American citizens would also push for this idea, and well, it worked. How does it affect current Iraqis today? That is a very good question to ask. Thank you, Sajad. So the way that affects Arabs today and Iraqis today is because now Iraqis face racism and are discriminated against because of these events, because they believe that we have no weapons of mass destruction and we were invaded. And because of this invasion, millions of Iraqis, thousands of Iraqis, were forced to leave their homes and travel to the USA under circumstances that they feared for their lives because of this invasion. And Iraqis today are still suffering from this because of the inequality, discrimination they face because of events that took back in 2001. Iraqis 20 years after are still facing backlash from the Iraq invasion, not because of the significance of the Iraq invasion, because of what it led to, the Iraq War. And this led to propaganda, and this led to the image of Muslims and Iraqis to be turned into what we see as terrorists today. And that's what the American people have been shown, and that's what they believe. Some may argue that the Iraq invasion was still necessary even without the weapons of mass destruction because of people like Saddam Hussein. What do you think about that? I say that you're asking very hard questions, Sajad. No, on a serious note, to the people who say that the Iraq invasion was still justifiable because of the ruler of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, I do see the point and see where you're coming from. Because a ruler like Saddam Hussein was horrible to his own people and he was a dictator. And yes, I agree that he should have been gotten rid of. But did the millions of Iraqis who died and suffered because of the Iraq invasion, did they deserve to die and suffer? Did they deserve to feel that type of pain and to be discriminated against years after? The reason behind the invasion wasn't Saddam Hussein. No, it was because the Bush administration wanted to push the idea that Iraq had destructive weapons to the world, not because of Saddam Hussein, but because of these weapons, and that was the reason behind invading, not because of Saddam Hussein. What do you say to people who think that what happened in Iraq was justifiable because of the events of 9/11? I say to those people that, first of all, as we saw in an earlier interview with one of the people on the street that was told by our interviewer that 9/11 was not caused by the citizens of Iraq. That was just a lie told by the media and shown to the public, again, to justify the invasion, to justify taking Iraq and putting them in this situation, and again, trying to put this image out there that Muslims and Arabs are terrorists, which is very unfair to those people, and it is just wrong, right? 9/11 was a tragic event, yes, but what about the 500,000 Iraqis who died in Iraq because of the Iraqi war and the Iraq invasion? What do you say to that? My final question for you, Jad, why is this still important? Why is this an issue today, and what are the Iraqi people seeking? Very good question to ask, Sajad. The reason why, specifically why this affects Iraqi people and the citizens of the USA who are Arab, is because the economy of Iraq was completely destroyed and stripped away from. The resources of Iraq was stolen by the USA. And we have not received any justice for what took place 20 years ago. Our economy is still in shambles. Our government is still in shambles. Our resources are still depleted because of these events. We, the Iraqi people, what we want, what we need, is for the USA to repent and give us what they owe us. We just want to be a strong, prospering economy, but because of events that happened 20 years ago, we cannot. We want our people to be able to come back to a strong, wealthy home, but we cannot provide that because we have no resources. And we want the USA to stand up and take the responsibility of what they caused from injustices years ago and help us build our economy. Thank you, Sajad. I appreciate you coming on to the show today. Back to you, Sajad. Thank you, Sajad. Well, as we see, we have learned a lot today as a whole. We have seen the points made by Sajad, the expert, and I hope you guys learned a lot from today's show. Have a good rest of your day.